if anyone has seen the trailers online, these things basically spring out of the ground. So elephants spring out of the ground, dinosaurs spring out of the ground, trees come out of the ground. So their imagining of how this should go is very fantastical, very magical, because it all has to happen in 24 hours. I'm curious. The only biologist they have on the panel is Georgia Perham. And I think you guys get a good sense of how seriously I take Georgia Perham. I'm guessing it's going to be cosmology. I guess technically Ken has a degree in biology, so he counts. But
no, Ken has but he doesn't even have a degree. I mean, it's apparently it's a bachelor of it's like a diploma or equivalent, really.
By the way, Shannon, I think was a fan of yours, Paul.
I recognized her. I recognized her face, and then she left.
Yeah. She was a fan of yours, and she just dropped back out. So Shannon, come back in.
Shannon is back.
Yeah, she's back. Make sure. Shannon,
I'm here.
So
Hi.
you wanted to gush over Paulogia for? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I love him, but I have no idea what I'm doing. I think I'm on video, but I'm trying to not be.
There's a tree.
We have a wonderful tree here.
Look at the trees.
It's a great tree.
That's the argument for.
I don't want to be on video.
It was usually eclipsed as a
I can't turn off your video, so I have no control over that. But we saw a nice tree. So naturalistic theology, this ergo God.
So Shannon, you've seen my answer. I'm an ignorant. So Shannon, if I get a chance so if there's a Q&A after, because sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. What should I ask Ken and Georgia and Bodie? Given that none of them know anything about the questions that RJ wants me to ask, they don't know anything. So should I ask?
I can only imagine.
Well, should I ask them if they've heard of my channel? That's one consideration. I would love to get them on record as to whether they've seen.
Yeah, you should.
You should ask them if they've heard of your channel for sure. But I want to ask you what they think about. I want you to ask them what they think about how the impression that they're placing on like people through social media, like what effect that it has, because a lot of it I think is damaging. Like I used to be a theist, and I'm not anymore, and coming out of it was really damaging because there's not any support and you're essentially just kind of cut off. So what help would they provide to those types of people? Do they feel like they should just be left out? Do they feel like they should just be cut off? Do they feel like they should still be supported? That's the type of questions that I would want you to ask.
When you say you're a theist, were you a young earth creationist theist or just a theist?
No, I was raised in a Christian household. I was actually an altar girl in an Anglican church. So I was an Anglican.
I can sing.
And no, no, I wasn't in the choir. I was an altar girl. No, definitely. I'm not going to sing for you. But when you leave, a lot of your family is just cut off from you or looks down upon you. And when you become an atheist, people look at you as though you have less moral standing and thus don't have as much respect for you, even though you haven't changed as a person. And I find that's probably the hardest part of it. Coming out as an atheist was actually a big deal for me, a really big deal for me, because coming out as an atheist essentially meant that I was going to be looked down upon. I was going to be looked at as though I was less than. I had lower standard of moral integrity, even though I don't. Nothing about me changed. The only thing that changed was that I didn't believe in that anymore. Everything about my personality remained the same. So seeing their messages, their really strong messages about what being a theist means as opposed to what being a non-theist means is really troublesome to me.
Shannon, do you ever get so the thing that drives me most crazy now that I'm a couple years out, although you and I have very similar stories, obviously, do you get you were never a Christian? And does that bother you?
No, I find that people avoid the conversation almost entirely. Like if I bring it up, it's essentially like, oh, there she's at it again. Or more so, okay, you're trying to corrupt the kids. So I can't really bring it up around, I've got nieces and nephews. My son, I raise him to essentially to be a critical thinker, and I'll respect whatever choice he makes. If he chooses to be a theist, I'll respect that and I'll support him. But I'm raising him to be a critical thinker. I have a 6-year-old and I don't encourage him to not pursue that, but I don't force anything upon him. I let him choose his own way. So when I'm discussing things with people, or when people bring things up around me that revolve around theology or revolve around the morality that pertains to theology and their opinions, I feel either I'm perceived as being overbearing, or I'm perceived as being overly critical, or I just won't say anything at all, because I feel like adding to the conversation ends up in an argument instead of a discussion.
Paul, you had some experience with that, haven't you? When you kind of lost your faith, right?
Well, yeah. When I lost my faith, I'm back to the tree. Yeah.
Yeah, back to the tree.
I mean,
Nova Scotia.
Robot English. But no, yeah, obviously, I think those of you who follow my channel know that I lost my marriage because of it. I lost business associates because of it. I lost virtually everyone in my life. Almost everyone I knew was a theist. Most of them turned their back on me, and then I got sick, and none of them came to visit me. It was all this weird. Being an atheist they would much rather that I had become a drug addict, because a drug addict they could come and save me from. When I didn't believe what they believed anymore, I was basically ostracized. And so I definitely can relate to all that.